Welcome. I'm Julie Bacon, and you're listening to the Mindset Coaching for Handlers podcast, a podcast for dog handlers who are on a mission to achieve big goals. Here I share lessons, insights, personal stories, and tools you can apply during your next show, trial, or test to help you strengthen your mental game and hopefully cue more consistently. Be sure to check out the show notes where you'll find details about the episodes, plus important links, including the link to the Dogged Planner and Workbook created just for handlers on a mission. So if you're ready to improve your competitive mindset, get out of your own way, and connect with your dog like never before, then it's time to get comfy, bring an open mind, and work your mindset. Hey everyone, welcome back to the podcast. Okay, this week we're talking about adaptability. And I think adaptability goes hand in hand with resilience. You could almost say they're kind of two sides of the same coin, to use that old metaphor. But I think when I think of resilience, and I just wrote about that this week in my newsletter, which sign up, go to the show notes if you want to sign up, but also check out my blog because all of my newsletter bits end up on the blog. Anywho, I was just writing about the difference between adaptability and resilience because I think we need both as handlers, right? Adaptability is more being flexible, being able to, go with the flow, if you will, being able to change, possibly in the ring, maybe change plans in the moment, or at least be flexible when you, for instance, show up to a venue that you've been going to for years and they chose this weekend to change the crating completely around, or the parking lot's under construction, or just something weird that just throws you for a loop, right? Being able to be flexible, still have our eyes on the prize, right? We're still headed toward that same point on the horizon, but we can be flexible in how we get there. Resilience is more about how you come back, bounce back from a setback, if you will, like you recover. I always like to say we bounce forward, we want to bounce stronger, etc. But it's how you just recover from something that happens and being able to pick ourselves up, dust ourselves off, so to speak, and get back into the game. That's being resilient. And then, of course, we've been talking also about grit and toughness and how grit and toughness play into being resilient. There's a place to be tough and there's a push through, and there's a place to have grit, which is that sort of long-term loyalty towards your goals. So all of these things, these characteristics all go together and are really important in developing and maintaining our mindset because we're in sports, right? And in a sport, things are constantly changing and there's so much that we are not in control of. So we need to be flexible. We need to be able to have some resilience. We need to be able to, bounce back, recover, but also stay tough and know when to stay loyal to those long-term goals and not give up when the going gets tough, as you will. So all of those pieces fit together. And this week, the piece we're going to focus on is adaptability. And coincidentally, not really, but we're also talking about adaptability all month long in August in the Q membership. So if you're into this topic, this might be your month to join. Regardless, let's go on. Okay. So obviously in sport, any sport, right? And of course the Olympics is on, I'm a big fangirl of that. I'm constantly looking at all of the wonderful mindset things that are present and visible to, those of us muggles sitting on the sidelines, just, watching on TV. But sport we're just not in control all the time, which means that we need to be able to adapt to changes or be flexible with how things might happen. Maybe you arrive to a venue and the schedule has changed slightly, or, there's a big delay, or they're running ahead. I mean, there's just a million things, right? I could fill up this whole time on just, crazy things that happen at dog shows. And so we need to be able to roll with it. But in that vein, we also need to be able to know what sets us off, right? Call it a pet peeve, call it a trigger, kind of depends on how, big of an annoyance it is for you. But we need to know what sets us off so that we can get better at reacting to those moments, or actually not reacting, rather responding, pausing for a second, thinking about how we want to respond, thinking about who we want to be in this moment, and then making a really good choice. And knowing what your triggers are or your pet peeves will really help you be able to develop plan Bs, or, develop some calmness around it, or maybe find a Zen moment in it. For me, I shared this, in the group the other week, but trials that are run really poorly really set me off. Okay. It just really frustrates me if everything's going really slow, or, who knows, it doesn't matter. Right. But that I know that about myself. So if that's one of my pet peeves, if that's going to bug me to the point of distraction within my mindset, I need to know that about myself, and I need to catch that before I allow it just to sort of run rampant in my brain, right? How many times have we let something seemingly inconsequential sort of ruin our day? I once told a story of a parking space, and how someone parking next to me not in a space, right? I'd purposely parked on an end so that I would have all this room for my ramp and all of this stuff to open my door. And someone parked next to me on that side, that passenger side, and it wasn't even a parking space when there were a parking space exactly on the other side of me, right? And for half the morning, I let that really bother me, because, oh my God, this person was breaking the rules, and how could you not see this? And this is so annoying, and this is so rude. And then I finally realized that I knew in the moment, this is my biggest problem, whatever. But I realized what it was is I was using it as an outlet for my excitement and my nerves, because I hadn't trialed in a while. And I was really excited to be back, but also kind of nervous, and just kind of all that excess energy. And I was burning off my excess energy on this topic. Okay. So we need to understand when our pet peeves or our triggers are really messing with our mindset. And it's really crucial that we become more adaptable, because our ability to let something like that go is important, because we have better things to focus on, right? Point blank. Right? Even in that day, even in that moment, I was why am I so focused on this? Why is this getting to me so much? I have better things to focus on. I need to be putting my energy over here. And then I would walk out to my car, I'd see this person parked next to me, and it would set me off again, right? And once I realized what it was, then I was able to let it go, which is very key, right? I was able to laugh at myself, realize that I was making much ado about nothing, and that it just was an outlet for my excess energy that I had about the day, and then I could process it and I could let it go. But I only could do that because I practiced this stuff, right? And so that's really important, and we need to get good at that. So today we're going to talk about being flexible, and more importantly, I think we can't just decide that we're going to be flexible. We have to actually work on being flexible, which seems kind of funny, because being flexible is all about things that you don't know are going to happen, and yet we're going to work on knowing that in advance. It's kind of, it feels sort of backwards, but trust the process. So one of the things I want you to remember is that we don't control everything. And we just have to know that and remind ourselves on that, maybe on a regular basis, because I think we want to control everything, of course, because the fewer surprises there are, the more we can prepare, and the more we can be ready to go and do all that. And that's lovely. But we don't really control that much. We don't control the judge. We don't even control our dogs. And anybody who's ever had a dog just have a mind of their own in the middle of the run, you are reminded of that. They humble us real quick. Okay. So of those things that we control and the things we can't control, that bucket of can't control is where we're going to learn to get flexible. And one of the things is I'm going to give you 5 tips today on getting more flexible and realizing it. And by the way, we're never going to be good at all of these things, okay? And just looking at my list and realizing the very first thing, like, we're never going to be good at all of these things. It's about developing the awareness and understanding that, oh, this is one of my areas. This is one of my triggers, my pet peeves, one of those things. And what we can do is we can set up some of these scenarios so that we have a plan B. Right? So that when one of these scenarios, one of those triggers, one of those pet peeves happen, we know what to do for ourselves, right? If I'm sitting in my chair and I'm sitting there getting frustrated because the trial's, moving slow, I don't sit there. Right? I don't let myself just sit there and stew. I get up, I go do something. I go out to my car. I've actually gone out to my car and cleaned out like parts of my car before, right? Because that's something physical for me to do. It burns off my energy, etc. So make sure that you are knowing what these pet peeves are and you're setting up maybe scenarios. Maybe it freaks you out if you're late and you don't have enough time. Well, practice in class, not having enough time to set up. That maybe you run your dog in and you run straight into the ring or something. Set up these scenarios and practice them. Okay, let's get into it. Here are 5 tips that I kind of came up with for us to work on and to start becoming more flexible. The first one is embracing change. And again, that's why I just said we're not going to get good at all these things, because embrace might be way too strong of a word. Maybe it's just accepting change, accepting that things aren't always going to go according to plan, accepting that things are going to change, things are going to be flexible, accepting that you don't control everything that goes on during a run, during a day, during a trial. And so realizing that is really helpful, just acceptance, but also we can change up our own routines then and realize that like, okay, well, what if I can't park where I want to park or crate where I want to crate or, do things like that. What would I do? Or maybe even we're going to a big event and we know that, hey, in December, when I go to Florida, I'm not going to be able to have the same kind of, crating in the car sort of ritual. So why don't I start practicing some of that now? So again, when we understand that we're not in charge, which is a tough thing for, I know, recovering control freaks like myself. But we can start to then set things up and just acknowledge that change is part of it and our ability to roll with it is going to help us in the long run. Okay. So it's an opportunity and not a threat. And I think that is a really big thing to, again, maybe embrace is too strong a word, but at least accept that change is not necessarily a bad thing. It's not necessarily a threat. It doesn't necessarily mean your day is ruined, right? It doesn't have to be all drama. It can be just an opportunity or it can be neutral. And sometimes just something being neutral, we think everything has to be good or bad. Sometimes it's neither. It's just a change and it doesn't have to mean anything. Okay, so first one is, we're going to call it accept change, not embrace, accept change. The second tip is really focus on that growth mindset. And with growth mindset, a positive mindset. Again, all change, all things that come up, all things that may happen aren't necessarily bad. It might be an opportunity. A growth mindset would say this is an opportunity to try this other way, right? If let's say you're running agility and you missed your walkthrough and you don't get to walk the course, well, how can you look at this as an opportunity to practice that instead of a complete, let's be dramatic, have a complete meltdown and be like, I can never run this course because I didn't walk it. Well, maybe you can. Maybe you can. You can learn the course. You can use this as an opportunity. What would you do if? And then further, take that and go set that scenario up in like your practice session or in a group class. Don't walk the course that everybody's walking. Practice just having to run it. Okay, that's interesting. So when we think about a growth mindset says that everything is an opportunity. Either you're not failing, you're learning. It's feedback. So when we really truly adopt that, then nothing can really I'm going to say go wrong, air quotes, but like, nothing can hurt us in that way because we're going to learn from it. Okay. I got 3 more tips when I come back. Quick question. Do you ever wish you had more mindset help? Well, the Q membership was created just for that reason. Every month we pick a topic and then we have 4 lessons, which are kind of like these podcasts that we dive deeper into. And so if you are ready for more, you're ready for more mindset work, think about joining the Q membership. Annual members get a free coaching session, but you can also choose the monthly option as well. Go to theqcoach.com to learn more. Let's get back to the episode. Okay, the third one is to strengthen your problem-solving skills. And I think this is like kind of a creative bent for me, right? In that, think of things that you would do if different scenarios happen. I think we are all, well, hopefully not. Hopefully we aren't. But I think a lot of us are A+ worriers. Okay. We get an A+ for worrying. And when we worry, we are actually using our imagination to invent the worst case scenario. And a lot of times, right? We can go all the way to catastrophizing, or we can just worry that it's going to rain or that the traffic's going to be bad or something like that. Okay. But why not think about that as a problem-solving opportunity? What if it does rain? What would I do? What if I didn't get there in time and missed my walkthrough? What would I do? If we have these plan Bs or Cs or Ds, then we lose that feeling of being completely caught off guard. I think a lot of times change or, when something happens, there's that initial feeling of like shock and surprise. And then we either feel prepared, like, okay, this isn't what I would have planned, but I've got a remedy for this. I know what I would do. Or we feel vulnerable and we feel like, oh my God, this is bad. I'm going to panic. And most of us are kind of wired for one bent or another, right? We're either panicky types or we're like, okay, like this isn't great, but I can figure this out types. All right. And we want to be more of the I can figure this out types. We want to, work that muscle and so that we are more go to the problem solving side of things. And when we do that and we see the opportunity and we see like creative things that we can do, we build our confidence and we feel less vulnerable to change. We don't feel like we will be as impacted if something doesn't go according to plan. And we'll feel less caught off guard, right? That initial surprise thing won't feel as detrimental. It will just feel like, didn't see that coming. Okay, time to shift gears. Time to be flexible. Okay. All right. Number 4 is staying flexible with our goals. And this is definitely hard because we want what we want. Let's just be honest, right? I want what I want, but we can put that point on the horizon, put that goal out on the horizon, that outcome goal, and be steering toward that, but be flexible in how we get there. A great example, which happily is many years behind us now, but I think the pandemic was a great example of that, right? Everybody's still trying to hold on to their goals, but being very flexible in what trialing looked like, in what being able to compete looked like. We all got really flexible really fast. We still had our eyes on the same goals, but we were flexible in how we were going to get there, okay? For instance, right? So we can still have goals. We can still have the same goals, but the pieces, the process goals, but also the actually how we execute can stay flexible and us still be true to our goals. So being flexible with that is really, really helpful, knowing that we can kind of bend and flow to changing circumstances and still make progress. Okay. And then finally, to stay curious, keep learning, and seek feedback. And it kind of sounded like 3 in 1, but they're really all related. For us to keep learning, we have to be open to feedback, open to this working out another way, right? I think curiosity is one of the most important traits that we all can have as handlers because our dogs are giving us feedback all the time. And, what if it meant something different, right? What if we were really trying to understand, why something was happening and being curious as to why instead of presuming we know why something happened, right? That I think is super important. We will look at our dogs, we will look at ourselves even, and we will think we kind of almost jump to conclusions and think that we understand why something happened. But yet that might not be the case. So to be curious and requires us to be open to the possibilities is there might be a different reason underneath. There might be a different why underneath. And so when we do that, we learn more. And we're also more open to feedback because we're curious about, someone else's perspective, whether it's a trainer, a friend, someone with a lot of experience, just maybe the feedback of video. But we're willing to look at it through different eyes. And when we do that, we're more likely to learn. And then again, we're getting more flexible because we're not pretending or presuming that we have the answer, that we know why. Right? We're not closing down to the possibilities. We're opening up, and we're opening up to being flexible, that maybe we don't know the answer, but we are wanting to find it. Okay. So those are kind of my quick kind of 5 ideas for you to start working your adaptability/flexibility muscle. I'm sure you'll have more ideas. And if you want to go deep on this, if you think that, you have trouble sort of rolling with the flow, or, I don't know, going with the flow, rolling with the punches, whatever. I'm mixing my metaphors here. But if flexibility is something that is not your jam, or if you feel like you're a person that when you're at a trial, if something changes, that it really throws you off, right? I mean, I work with people who, if they think they're 3 away, and the gate steward says, "Oh, nope, I need you in next." They "Nope, freak, meltdown, can't do it. I had a plan," kind of thing. And same with they put people in front of them, that can really, because it really upsets their plan. So if flexibility or adaptability is something that you're struggling with, think about these 5 tips and think about how you can work on this, because I think that some of us don't think that this is a changeable thing. We can learn to become more flexible. We may not love it, right? This may not always be our bent. We may not be sort of wired, if you will, air quotes, that way, but we can learn some adaptable skills that will allow us to be more flexible and therefore, hold on to our mindset in a really positive way when we need it the most, right? We want to be flexible and be able to, do both, if you will. Hang on to our mindset, be competitive, have a plan, but also be able to be a little bit flexible and to kind of roll with the changes so that we can support our dogs, still get in the flow, and be able to compete at our best. So would love to know how you think you are, scale of 1 to 10, how adaptable do you think that you are? And is this something that would benefit you if you worked on it, if you got a little more adaptable? I think all of us can get a little more adaptable. But anyway, that's my challenge for you this week. Think about how adaptable you think you are. Try to work on some of these things. Maybe incorporate a couple of the tips that I gave you. Let me know how it works out. And no matter what you're up to this week, I hope you have a fantastic week with your dogs. Thanks so much for listening to the Mindset Coaching for Handlers podcast with me, Julie Bacon. I am so grateful for your precious time. Check out my Dogged Planner workbook and journal available on Amazon. Just search for Dogged Planner. I also offer monthly membership that's perfect for ongoing support of your awesome goals. Check out theqcoach.com for details, or just stop by and check out all the ways you can work on your mindset. And be sure to follow me on Facebook and Instagram at theqcoach and let me know how it's going. Finally, please share, subscribe, and leave a review. This helps us podcasters tremendously. Plus, I know I get my best podcast recommendations from friends. Thanks, and have a great week with your dogs.